A teenager in East Texas was arrested on capital murder charges after fatally shooting his parents, his sister, and his brother. Why did he do such a terrible, terrible thing? Well, because he claims that they were all cannibals and were planning to eat him. Going to mention right from the top, this 18-year-old is clearly mentally insane, in my judgment, of course. Cesar Olald, 18 years of age, told others that he had killed his family because they were cannibals and they were going to eat him. Police responded to the family's home in Nash, Texas, after a report that a person had harmed his family and threatened to harm himself. Officers arrived and spoke with the 18-year-old, Cesar Olald, who told them that he had pulled the trigger and shot his family. So there he is, admitting to the officers immediately that he is guilty of murdering his parents, sister, and brother. So I'm going to say, you may disagree, that's somewhat of a blessing, I think. It's fair to say that he's come forward immediately and admitted to the officers that he is the guilty party. I say it's a blessing because it's going to reduce, or it ought to reduce, the need for a lengthy trial if he maintains that guilty admission. The teenager surrendered to police. The police investigated inside the home and they found the murdered bodies of 4 family members, the 18-year-old's parents, sister, and brother. So we have the names of the victims. I'll read that out. Hopefully my pronunciation is okay. Ruben Olaud, the father, Ada Garcia, the mother, Lisbeth Olaud, the 18-year-old sister, and Oliver Olaud, his younger brother. So we're not told the ages of the victims, but we are provided their names. Ruben, Ada, Lisbeth, and Oliver. He shot and killed all of them. He's admitted to that. So first and foremost, rest in peace to all of the victims. Full condolences to all those that knew, were close to any and all of the victims. So extended family. An entire family unit wiped out by the 18-year-old son. He gets to survive, but he's going to be locked up for the rest of his life, I dare say. The investigators have said that it looks like the victims were shot at various places within the home, within the residence, and they were dragged into the bathroom. Cartridge cases were found around the house. Blood splatter was found on multiple surfaces. So I don't know what that means, but I guess that means this 18-year-old went from room to room, approached each of his family members, perhaps individually, and shot and killed them, perhaps at point blank range, or there or thereabouts. What a terrible, terrible scene. And imagine, there you are, you've got shooting going on in your house. Perhaps you even realize that your son, your brother, is killing other family members, and perhaps you realize that you're going to be next. A co-worker of Lisbeth, the shooter's sister, had gone to the family home when Lisbeth, the sister, didn't show up to work. So the co-worker was wondering, well, where is she? So he went to the home and he forced his way inside. So I presume he felt there was good reason to force his way inside. Perhaps there was sign that there was a violent act within the home, but either way, he forced his way inside the home and he was confronted by the 18-year-old shooter, Cesar Olaud, who pointed a gun at Lisbeth's co-worker. Police were called, and police detained the shooter at the scene. He's been held on a $10 million bond. So I'm going to say well done, Texas, perhaps for a couple of things. First and foremost, for having such a very, very high bond. I'm going to say an unachievably high bond. I'm going to say a ridiculously high bond, but I think that's a very good thing. I think it's absolutely warranted to ensure those that are strongly believed to be guilty of heinous acts, murder, torture, kidnapping, SA, there is no need for them to have the ability to walk free, even if they do have access to quite a large sum of money. So, you know, a $10 million bond, I would presume that's completely unachievable to reach even 10% of that amount. 10% is often all that's needed to make bond or bail or whatever it's called. So I applaud Texas for that reason. I'm also perhaps going to applaud Texas for taking in the suspect unharmed. I mean, to be honest, I kind of don't really care if I can't really say what I want to say because I'll get into trouble with YouTube, but let me try to word it in a manner which is somewhat safe. I would not shed a tear if the gunman had taken their own life, and likewise I would not shed a tear if the gunman had been perceived to pose a threat to police, and if police felt it necessary to take the gunman's life, I would not shed a tear. But having said that, I guess we should applaud, we're told that we should applaud the police for taking in the suspects unharmed. bombed. Yeah, so I don't know. We can disagree with that. Maybe I don't know. A neighbor of the area that had lived next to the family for around 12 years said that the entire family were hardworking and extremely nice people. They were a beautiful family. Lisbeth, the shooter's sister, had graduated from college. She was planning on becoming a teacher, and the shooter was known to be a good kid. He was planning to become a plumber. And here's a direct quote from the neighbor who knew the family, as I say, for around 12 years. Here's a quote: "What surprised me the most about it is who done it. He was such a good kid." So I'm not making this video to praise the shooter in any way, shape or form, obviously. But I do think it's interesting, and I do think it's something that we ought to consider to some extent. And certainly I would imagine the investigators, the detectives, the experts, the psychologists will give a lot of consideration to. How can somebody who's a good kid, somebody who's planning out his career, I would say a good career as a plumber, they get very well paid, it's a good little job if you ask me. So he's described as being a good kid. It seems that he's somewhat responsible, yet he's gone on a massive murder spree. Why did he do that? Well, he told police immediately why he did it, because he believed his family were cannibals and were going to kill him and eat him, which is obviously a delusion. I would say, as a layman, I'm guessing of course, but I think it's a fair guess, that he was suffering from a mental psychosis. We're not told if he's been diagnosed with any mental illness, but I would guess that he's going to go under very thorough medical examinations, including a psychological examination, and I fully expect him to be deemed unfit for trial. That's my guess, and I can't see it any other way, how an 18-year-old believes his family, including his younger brother, his older sister, are planning on not only murdering him, but subsequently eating his body. That's clearly a delusion. So he's going to be diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia or something along those lines, in my opinion, my guess. How does that happen? Is that a normal thing, to be a good kid and then all of a sudden suffering mental illness to that extent, suffering psychosis to that extent? I guess it's fair and important to note that the neighbor doesn't fully understand, doesn't fully know the 18-year-old shooter's mental health history. So perhaps he has been diagnosed, perhaps he's been on medication, or perhaps he's recently come off medication or something along those lines. It is a tragedy. I do get a little bit confused as to how much leniency should be given to somebody who's clearly suffering from mental illness when they commit these heinous crimes. I don't fully know, but my general thoughts are, and I heard somebody else say this, so I'm just mimicking somebody else really, but my thoughts are that even though the perpetrator may be the victim of or a sufferer of mental health issues, severe mental health issues, despite that they still did make the choices that they made. So they still did commit these terrible acts. Even if they did so when they're not of sane mind, they are still guilty of committing those acts. And with that, they absolutely need to be punished and face justice for the acts that they caused. So I would say that he's going to be locked up in a mental health institution indefinitely. That would be my guess. His age may play a factor, but I doubt it. If he was 17, he'd probably be given some level of leniency. His defense lawyers would argue for some leniency and he'd probably be granted it, in my opinion. But he's 18 years of age. He's an adult. He's taken the life of 4 innocent people, his family, his parents, his brother, his sister. Rest in peace. So he's going to be incarcerated in a mental health institution for the rest of his life, I dare say. So that's all I have to say about this crime, this article. It is absolutely terrible. I'm going to wrap things up at this point. If you appreciate the coverage, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit. I'll be making a few more videos. Thanks for listening.